to see it live in person. Hot rhyme dispersing, rhyme detergent.
What's good, everybody? What's good? It's your boy Cardinal Bird Crawford, E.S. Red, if that's what you want to call him, man. And we are back for another one. Alright, y'all, we have a new topic. Past due. Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. Fight fans are losing interest and patience. Alright, y'all, so I'm not sure if this fight's actually going to happen this year at this point. You know, I've been one of the few, I'm not going to say I'm the only one, but I'm one of the few people who's been, since they announced this sometime back, it was in the spring at some point when they said that they were fully negotiating this fight. I've been saying I doubt that it would happen this year, and I gave my reasoning. There were a whole bunch of reasons. There are still even more reasons than I even named, like in my last video, the video before my last. But, you know, at this point, it's almost like we've hit that Matic wall where we were like 5 or 6 years into Matic negotiations. And every other, you know, day we're getting promised the fight. You know, it's going to happen this time. Mayweather's doing this, you know. Pacquiao beat this guy, and you know they're gonna bring it together. You know the funny thing about Matic, even though it took I think 6 or 7 years to actually make the fight, it was never a question of the money. At no point during the Matic negotiation was it ever about money. Was it ever, well, there isn't enough money to put up for this, where fans aren't going to support that. There's not going to be enough pay-per-view buys for promoters to recoup or for both fighters to get paid good off of that. There was never at any point any problem about money with the Matic fight, which is what made it so special and strange that it took so long for it to actually play out. You know, and as we know, it was mainly on Mayweather's part. It was never Pacquiao demanding this or Pacquiao demanding that. The only time Pacquiao stopped that fight from happening was when Floyd Mayweather was demanding some special blood testing that Pacquiao didn't want to agree with. I think that did stall the negotiations up. And ended up them passing over the fight for I think another couple of years before it was actually made. So never was it really like an issue of money. Never was it an issue of Pacquiao not wanting to accept terms or give Mayweather whatever he wanted just to get him in the ring. You know, it's sad for Pacquiao that when he finally did get him in the ring, he injured himself so the fight could not play out the way he wanted it to, or that the majority of fans wanted it to. But, you know, at the end of the day, we still got that fight. It actually happened, whether it was a good fight or not. You know, blase, feel how you want to feel. We actually did get that fight. Now, this Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. situation is different. It's almost like Terence Crawford watched what Mayweather did. And you know what? That these two guys are friends. That these two guys actually deal with each other. And that Errol Spence doesn't really deal with Mayweather should tell you a lot about why this fight isn't actually happening. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to study the actions of Floyd Mayweather and then look at the actions of Terence Crawford and see what's really going on. It shouldn't take a genius for you to see what's really going on. Now, is Floyd Mayweather purposely trying to stall this fight? Does Floyd Mayweather have a vendetta against Errol Spence Jr.? Does Floyd Mayweather, is he trying to sabotage his own fighter? I don't want to say yes to that because, you know, then I'm condemning Floyd Mayweather for something that he may not be doing. But once again, those two guys are friends, and Floyd Mayweather was the one using that tactic against Manny Pacquiao. So it shouldn't be a far-fetched idea that Bud would use that same tactic against Errol Spence Jr. to stall the fight out. Because because whether the excuse is he can't win, whether the excuse is the money, whether the excuse is the venue, no matter what the excuse for why he's doing it, it is what he is doing. Whether you want to accept that or not, that is what he is doing. He's using a Mayweather tactic to muddy up the negotiation, because to me, I think it's the only thing he can do. I don't even hate him for doing it, because I think, unfortunately for him, he painted himself into a corner and didn't realize it. He left Bob Arum, you know, and this is why I think Errol Spence is going to win this. This is very smart people he's dealing with. And it's not just Errol Spence Jr., but I do feel like Errol Spence Jr. roped him into doing something he shouldn't have did. You know, you get people all the time that say, well, Errol Spence Jr. said, I'll fight you, you need to go get a belt. I'll fight you, you need to leave Bob Arum. I'll fight you, blase, blase, blase. In what realm of reality does another fighter, I don't care how many belts you have or how many victories, or how much better your resume is than mine, in what realm of reality should another fighter be dictating to another fighter on what he should do to make a fight? That should always be between you, your team, and your promoter. Never should another fighter be giving you suggestions on what to do to make a fight. So at the end of the day, Terence Crawford was tricked. He got mentally effed by Errol Spence Jr. into going and getting the belt, number one, and then leaving your promoter, number two, which was the most ignorant thing he could have ever done. And number three, now it's like, you're going to take this money that we're offering you, or we're not making the fight. And at the end of the day, I really don't need you. You know, this is why Errol Spence, y'all ever wonder why Errol Spence is always laughing when he says some of this stuff? Because he knows, it's like when I know I'm about to say something funny, it makes me giggle sometimes. Like some of the stuff I say just makes me giggle sometimes, because I know it's so true that it's funny. He knows what he's doing. This is why he's, you know, you see the smirk on his face sometimes. You see him giggling when he says certain stuff. And then he'll say something like, hey, you know, it's strap season, to start laughing. It's because he knows he forced Crawford into painting himself into a corner. And only now do I think Terence Crawford sees the big picture. I never should have left Bob Arum. I was getting great money from Bob Arum. I had a great situation. No, Bob Arum doesn't have a lot of credible welterweights at the moment. But if he would have waited the situation out, guess what was going to happen? PBC was going to run through itself. They only have a certain amount of welterweights, and they've all, for the majority, you know, at one point, they, you know, a lot of them were undefeated, like Thurman and Broner, and then Pacquiao came along and changed up their whole game. You know, he started beating guys, and guys started retiring, guys started sitting out, guys started second guessing themselves, and now PBC is not the welterweight monster it was 5 years ago, or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. You know, so all he had to really do was sit back, relax, keep winning, keep getting those checks, and allow time to elapse and fix all, because, like I said, once again, PBC would have eventually ran out of fights to make anyway, and Bob Arum wasn't going to not feed his cash cow if Terence Crawford would have just played ball. And you know what? At this point, I think fans are sick of it. Fans have had enough. Fans are feeling like this fight is overdue. Fans are feeling like they're being neglected at this point. People are losing interest. And at the end of the day, both of these guys are going to miss out on something spectacular and a big boatload of money if this fight isn't made. Now, who's it going to more negatively affect? Obviously, it's Terence Crawford, because Errol Spence is in a much better position with 3 titles, a promoter, and more welterweights to fight than Terence Crawford, having 1 title, no promoter, and can't seem to get a fight to save his life at this point, unless he takes on one of these younger lions that could severely ruin his career. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You're more than likely to get a response on the tube, so holler at me over there if you want a response. It's your boy, Cardinal Bud Crawford, or E.S. Red, if that's what you want to call me, and we are And
I know niggas that smoke the blunt and then eat the roach like Fur Factor. I ain't a queer rapper on a John Deere tractor. I'm a real nigga. Let me say it again. I'm a real nigga.